Hello students, we are learning lesson 7 coordination, control and coordination, and today we are going to learn coordination in plants, and this is video 5 of the chapter. Coordination in plants means how plants respond to stimuli by coordinating its parts. The plants respond to stimuli, that is environmental change. Stimuli means environmental change by movement of its parts. Now this movement in the plants are of two types. It's nastic movement and tropic movement. It is called nastism and tropism. Nastic movement, one of the examples of nastic movement is, suppose we touch leaves of the touch-me-not plant, that is mimosa plant, then the leaves fold in the inner side. That means it is responding to the touch. Touch is the external stimuli. It is responding to the touch by movement of the leaves. But this movement doesn't involve any growth of the plant part. The leaves are not growing, it is only moving. So nastism is independent of the growth of the plant parts. Nastic movement doesn't involve the growth, and the direction of the movement is not towards the direction of the stimulus. So stimulus was touch. Wherever we are touching, the leaves are not curling it towards the touch, it is curling away from them. It is not directional movement, it is not a direction dependent movement. And the tropism is also a kind of movement where growth is seen in the plant part. That means permanent growth is there. For example, the roots of the plant always grows towards the soil because of the gravitational pull. So gravitational pull is an external stimuli which is acting on the root, and the roots grow towards it. So this kind of growth towards the stimuli or away from the stimuli. For example, the stem do not grow towards the ground, it grows away from the ground in the opposite side. So that is called negative tropism. The tropic movement is dependent on the growth of the plants. Permanent growth is there towards any stimulus, and the direction of movement is towards the direction of the stimulus or opposite to it. For example, blooming of the sunflower facing the sun. That is, sunflower always faces the sun. It reacts towards the stimulus, that is towards the light. So reaction of the plant part is seen when the sunflower blooms. This is how the plant's parts move. That is by nastism and tropism. See, what is tropism in plants? Explain its types. There are certain types of tropism depending on the type of the stimuli. If the movement of the curvature in a plant organ means parts of the plant. If the movement of the parts of the plant is caused by an external and directional stimuli, then it is called tropism. If the stimuli is directional, plants respond to stimuli slowly by growing in a particular direction. Stimuli means environmental change. If the growth of the plant is towards the stimulus, it is called positive tropism. If it is away from the stimulus, it is called negative tropism. Let us see the example of positive and negative tropism. Before that, see which are the stimuli, environmental stimuli. There are 5 kinds of stimuli: light, gravity, chemical, water and touch. Phototropism, it depends on light. The movement of the plant in response to light is called phototropism. In response to light, example is stem shows positive phototropism, that is, it grows towards the light, while root shows negative tropism, it grows away from the light in the opposite direction of the light. Geotropism means which is gravitational pull dependent. Movement of the plant due to the gravitational pull is called geotropism. Stem shows negative geotropism by growing away from gravitational pull, and root shows positive geotropism by growing towards the gravitational pull. Chemotropism, it is the movement of the plant part in response to chemical stimulus. Because of some certain chemicals, presence of chemicals, the plant parts move. Example, growth of pollen tube towards the ovule during the process of fertilization. Now growth of pollen tube towards the ovule means what is that? It is, we know that in the plant part, in the plant we have a female plant organ. So there the pollen grains are transferred. Suppose the pollen grains falls on the stigma. This is called stigmatic surface, and this whole thing is the carpel. Carpel means female reproductive part of the plant. So pollen grains is transferred from the anther part. Anther means, suppose this is the male reproductive part, this is anther. From the anther the pollen grains goes and sits on the stigma. This is stigma of the plant. So when the pollen grains falls on the stigma, then the surface of the stigma secretes certain chemicals, and because of the chemicals the pollen grains respond to it, and pollen tube is generated from the pollen grain. Pollen tube passes through the style of the carpel and then it reaches the ovule. Here the ovule is there, and there the pollen grain meets the ovule when the pollen travels through the tube, pollen tube. So this formation of the pollen tube is because the chemical is secreted by the stigmatic surface. So movement, that is growth of the pollen tube towards the ovule, this is ovule, during the process of fertilization is because of the chemotropism. Then hydrotropism. Hydrotropism is the movement of the plant part in response to water. Wherever water is there, the roots always grows towards the water. This is the response of the root towards water, that is called hydrotropism. Thigmotropism means the movement of the plant part in response to touch. For example, we have seen money plant, or suppose if we see the bitter gourd or the bottle gourd, the gourd is having certain parts called tendrils. This way the tendrils grows out of the stem of the gourd plant. Gourd is a climber. So movement, tendrils of the plant part touch the support and grows on it. If we keep any stick on it, suppose a stick is kept, then this tendrils will touch the stick and it will grow along the stick. So thigmotropism, whenever the tendrils touches the support, then it grows along the support. So the movement of the plant part in response to touch, for example, tendrils of the plant touch the support and grow on it. When the touch is the external stimuli, then it grows along the support. That is called thigmotropism. That's all for today. We'll meet in the next video.